There's no argument that Baldwin, Florida is one of the rail fanning hotspots in the state. I've videotaped more than 100 trains at this old seaboard crossing outside Jacksonville. This is a K train heading north in February 2006. "16 miles north of Baldwin, on the Callahan Sub, formerly Seaboard, formerly Florida Central and Peninsula, formerly the Florida Railroad, the GS&F crossed to connect Macon, Georgia with Jacksonville. That line became the Southern and then Norfolk Southern. The at-grade crossing, known as Crawford, is today one of the busiest spots on the S-line. When CSX's Intermodal Logistics Center is built at Winter Haven, the Callahan Sub will likely start carrying piggyback and container trains. Lakeland Junction is all Atlantic coastline territory. The Seaboard never got into Lakeland, but the coastline's old Vitis sub was reassigned to be a connector from the S-line into Lakeland Junction and the A-line. This view at the junction is gone forever because the Florida tile plant was leveled and a viaduct built over the tracks right at the stem of the Y. Trains pulled with all leaser power have also disappeared from the CSX. Once in a while, you see some really interesting things. This CSX flagman is actually an executive with the railroad, but in August 2004, he and dozens of others are called upon to flag crossings. This is Lakeland, Florida's 10th Street on the Vitis subdivision.
CSX Q188 engine UP 4354 North, prepared to stop at 10th Street, stop at flag, 100 J.
This is Flagger Knutson to Q188. We got traffic stopped and you can proceed through my crossing, over.
I submit this first time you have traffic stop, proceed through your crossing. Thank you, sir. 188 on.
It is August 23, 2004. Hurricane Charlie hit Central Florida just 10 days before and did some terrible damage, including knocking out power to thousands of electric customers, CSX among them. That meant crossing signals went dark after their batteries died. Both the flagger and this train are visitors to this crossing. Q188 normally runs the A-line to Taft Yard at Orlando and then on to Jack's Ramp. But Charlie wrought havoc on the Orlando side, virtually destroying the signal system through much of the territory. So 188 is running the S-line today.
Flagger Knutson to Q188. Train looked good, marking. Y'all have a safe day.
Thank you very much. Q188 on.
In March of 2004, train 0700 was among the biggest CSX locals in Florida. It carried rock, finished lumber, and boxcar loads for northern Pinellas County. But it mostly handled loaded auto racks, sometimes 6,000 feet of them, bound for Tampa's Drew Park Auto Distribution Center. 700 is coming up out of Yeoman Yard and up the Clearwater Sub. He's running due north, but timetable south. The Clearwater Sub is one of those places where the railroad runs backwards for a while. Returning from a weekend of train watching in Folkestone, Georgia in October 2004, I noticed something strange on the S-line to Tampa. I always follow the S-line on my way home, and there are always at least 2 or 3 trains, but not this day. Finally, here came a W100 passing me at Hawthorne. This was a work train extra carrying company ballast. That's often a bad sign, and this day it was. An early morning coal train rounding the curve at Ocala station derailed and several cars spilled out right downtown. Company incident forces responded within an hour or so of the crash, and by midday they were well on their way to clearing the damage and reopening the line. In addition to wiping out a considerable stretch of the track, the derailing hopper cars wiped out the entire canopy on the south end of the Ocala station. One of them also took a chunk out of the neighboring building across the street. By noon Sunday, track panels were already standing by, and the line was well on its way to being reopened. 6 weeks later, on November 29, 2004, southbound Q441 and northbound K916 were both coming to the junction at Vitis. For some reason, 916 passed their stop signal and slammed head-on into 441 right at the junction. Engineer E.E. Anderson and conductor C.J. Jones jumped from 916 moments before the crash. Jones died when a freight car tumbled forward on him. Anderson and the crew of 441 survived the collision. 4 days afterward, as the cleanup continued, you could hear the dispatcher authorizing DTC blocks to trains in this normally signaled territory.
Q44103, 7785, Mr. Moody. As an absolute, north and south, in the Vitis and the Zephyr blocks, LRC, over.
Waldo is one of my favorite stops on the S-Line. The overpass, built when the S-Line was still SAL, is a perfect vantage point. This is Q603, Waycross, Georgia to Winston, Florida. I like Waldo because it still has some old-time seaboard feel. Roadbed remnants of the branch line to Gainesville are still here. Waldo is where the original Florida Railroad turned west to Cedar Key. Railfanning days for me often end with yard jobs or switchers. At County Line Spur, just west of Lakeland, job Y125 is switching a cold storage company with a Jeep 38-2, still in CSX's classic Yellow Nose 2 paint. A couple of miles west on the A-line at Plant City Steel, the local is using a rare Jeep 60. CSX only has 3 of these on its whole system. At Plant City, Florida, this is Danny Harmon, out.